Hi, today we're going to be looking at changing the belt on your Tandberg reel-to-reel tape recorder. Here we have a Tandberg 3600X reel-to-reel tape recorder. It's roughly the same as the 33, 34 and the 35, basically the same thing. So first things first, we need to make sure that the tape recorder has been unplugged from the mains. It's very important, don't electrocute yourself. And then we're going to start removing some of the screws from the top panel. So there's two screws at the top, which I've already removed. And also some screws on the front, two at the top and two down by the head covers there. Once those screws have been removed, we can then remove the head cover. I presume you've done a few times if you clean your heads on the machine. Remove the speed control, pulls off, and we've also got a washer. Don't lose the washer. Now some of these may be very, very stiff, so you might have to put a lot of force to pull them off, but they should come away. To remove the lid, if you lift it up at the top and then pull it at the bottom, then remove the lid out of the way. Inside reveals the figure of 8 belt that we're replacing here. Now with this model we have got these levers here, and the belt runs over the top of the levers, and when the machine's in stop mode the levers move the belt away from the motor. Now this is only with the later models that this has on these. The earlier models don't have these, so not to worry about. But when you do put it back, make sure that it does go in the little slots through the actual levers on both sides, one at the bottom and one at the top there, as you can see. Also, when you put the belt on, remember it runs from the top of this pulley down to the top pulley here, and then when it comes up from the bottom, it runs to the bottom pulley here on the motor, to make sure it's that way around. Okay, so the way that I'm going to do this is to remove this turntable from the machine. Now to do this, I have to remove the plastic bolt that's at the back of this. So I'm just going to remove that now. Okay, so I've just removed the plastic bolt from the back of the machine there, which looks like this. And then after removing the plastic bolt, there's a small washer that's to remove, and also a small metal pressure plate then. Once they've removed from the back of this turntable, you can then remove the turntable. As you can see, they're just screw on the back of this. The reason I've taken that off is because it's a bit difficult to get the belt past the pad here, squeeze it past it, and also it saves you having to take this arm off. But you can actually just save time if you want by removing this arm. Now to remove this, basically all you need to do is to pull it off. It's clipped on both sides. But when you pull it off, make sure you don't lose the spring. There's a spring at the back there. So I'm just trying to find my hands. I was trying to find the spring. We've got a spring at the back there, so I'll show you the spring there. That's easily lost in the machine somewhere, and it's quite difficult to get it. So you might want to put the machine flat on the floor when putting that back on or when taking it off. Basically, the spring just goes onto this protruding piece of metal at the back. If I just show you, the spring goes on there, and then it will go back in the little, there's a little sort of indentation for the spring to go in there, and then you clip the lever back in by pushing it quite hard into the two little clips there. Make sure it's firmly put back in when you put that back on. Now we're just going to remove the belt from the machine, so it's quite easy to take off. You just pull it past this pressure pad there, and you might have to just pull this piece of metal up so you can get the belt underneath it, and again the belt off the other side. Now need to remove the braking lever from that side. I'll just put one finger on the spring so I don't lose it, and then put it on the floor, and then that will allow us to remove that belt. Okay, now we've got the new belt here. So this is the new belt, and we're going to replace that and put that back on the machine in the same way that we put it. So basically it goes over this pulley, okay, and then when it goes down it'll go to the top pulley here. And so we just put that on now. Okay, so we've just replaced the belt, and as you can see from the top pulley here, it runs from the top of this pulley it'll run to the top pulley at the top of the motor, and then from the bottom it runs to the pulley below that. Make sure again that it goes over the top of these arms, so the arms can actually move the belt when you put machine in stop mode or in the play mode. I think in the play mode, if you put it in the play mode, they actually move up to move the belt away from the motor. Okay, because this machine has a clutch drive for the play on the rear of the machine. So you put the plate this back on. So we just need to return the parts now. While we've taken it apart, we just have a look at it now. One other problem with these machines is that this material here just wears away, or it just falls off because it's quite brittle and it'll break. So you can replace this by cutting some sections of cork or some other material that you could use to replace these. Make sure you don't cover. Make sure they're the same size and they're not covering this outer edge here, which would use for the braking. And some of the earlier machines use the inner part for a clutch control as well, so make sure you cut the right size and fit them on. You can just use super glue if you want, push them quite hard, they should stay on there. Now we're not doing any servicing on this machine, we're just showing you the belt on this one. So we're going to put these turntable back into position, and then we will replace the parts at the back. So the first part is this bit, followed by the washer, and then the small little bolt, plastic bolt. Now it is a little bit tricky to get in there with some of the machines. This one's got the Dolby unit behind the thing, so it's a bit tricky. So if you find it difficult, you can remove the back panel if you want. There's just a few screws to remove that, so you can make it a bit easier for you. So we just put the bolt and the pressure plate and the washer back on that. Do you want a small bit of play, a tiny bit of play in that? You don't want it too tight. And when it's in the free mode, make sure that you can move it, because obviously it needs to be able to move for the winding mechanism for that. Okay. And now we're just going to replace these brake levers just by pushing them in place, but we've got to hold the spring in the position on the brake lever. So one way that I do that is to have one hand holding the spring on, put it into position where the spring lines up with the hole, and I'm probably going to need two hands for this. I'm going to just pause this for a minute, and now I've just pushed that in position. Now this is a little bit tricky, this, and we don't want to lose the springs. So again, I put the machine in a flat position so that if you drop the spring, you're not going to lose it down the machine somewhere and not having a problem getting that out. And make sure it's fully pushed in, because if it's not pushed in position properly, they can stick up and they can rub on the turntable as it moves. So it is important to push those into position properly. As I said, you can get away sometimes with that without removing these, but by just moving your finger on the brake as you pull the belt off, but it is a little bit more tricky to do that. I'll just put the brake on the other side, and then that will be completing the job inside here. Okay, both brake levers have been returned into the machine, so it's just a case of repeating what you've just done for the dismantle to put the top back on. Now if you just put the lid back on, so it's the back of the lid just slotted halfway across there, and then you can just slide it back into position. Now it's always better just to put the top screws in here first before putting these front screws in. Put all the screws in the light position so that you can re-tighten them down once the lid is in the correct position there. If you try tightening the first screw down, you may find difficulty in putting the other screws in. And the speed control, easily put back on the washer, and just push the speed control on, and then hopefully everything should be back to normal and you should be able to enjoy your machine again. Thank you for watching this video.